Hello and welcome to the third episode of Women's Public Leadership Network's podcast series, Tips from the Trail, where we explore the path to political office from the decision to run to Election Day. This program features women leaders who are working in or around politics or have run for office, sharing their best tips and tricks for success. Formerly a Facebook Live series, we're excited to launch this year on new platforms including Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'm your host, Larissa Martinez, founder and president of WPLN, a nonpartisan nonprofit organization working to educate, organize, and inspire center-right women to seek public office at every level across the U.S. Joining us today is Maralyn Beck, founder and executive director of New Mexico Child First. Welcome, Maralyn. So we're so excited to be back in the studio for another session of our podcast, Tips from the Trail. And today we're going to be talking about What's Your Why, which is one of my most favorite topics. And we're so excited to be joined by Maralyn Beck from New Mexico Child First. She is the founder and executive director and all-around amazing individual who does so much work with women behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, just kind of everywhere. So we'll be getting to you in just a moment, but I wanted to kind of preface the conversation topic today because I think the What's Your Why conversation is one that we have a lot with a lot of different women and different women leaders. And for those that are listening, the why is not just why you want to do something, but it's really getting clarity on your purpose, on your mission. And Maralyn's going to provide us with how she got clear on her mission. But this is something that in my other life, whenever I speak to students, whenever I talk to candidates or just leaders in general, this is something that everyone, I feel like they jump in first before getting clarity on this. And then that's where things sometimes can go off the rails. So it's a really important place to start. And again, I'm just so excited to have someone like Maralyn who has really taken her passion and gone kind of crazy with it in a positive way. You've made so much impact. You've done so many things that I'm excited to hear more about how you got there and how you can help other women achieve something similar with their passion and goals. So with that, as I mentioned before, Maralyn has been someone who's been involved with WPLN for years, since the beginning. She started off as someone who was engaged with another women's training organization in New Mexico. She's part of our Impact Council. So this is something I know she's passionate about on the women's side, but she also has taken her passion for something that was very personal for her, a very personal issue, created a nonprofit, and as I mentioned before, is just doing amazing things with it and making a huge impact for children in New Mexico. So Maralyn, welcome to the program. So
Thank
excited.
You for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And let's start it. Let's dive in and get some of your experiences and tell us how you got to this place where you felt like New Mexico Child First was the next iteration of your passion and how you kind of got to that decision.
Well, thank you. So Larissa and I met 8 or so years ago, and I was working on a center-right organization to lift up women leaders and get them to run. Very similar. And that was a passion of mine. Today I sit before you, I'm 40 years old, younger in my 30s. Again, I think those of us that are driven to public service, it's just in our DNA and in our blood, right? And so I remember So New Mexico Child First Network, let me start there, is a nonprofit in New Mexico dedicated to improving the lives of children in foster care and empowering those who serve them. And I founded that at the end of December 2018, which is now 7+ years ago. And so my path, Larissa and I, it's funny being here coming full circle. This was not an intention that I had at the time. I was involved. I have a master's degree in communications and strategic public relations from the George Washington School of Political Management. And so, those of us that wanted to be Olivia Pope got called to do that, right? I am a very passionate person by nature. I'm the oldest daughter. I'm the oldest granddaughter. So again, and I'm a Leo. I feel like I check all the boxes.
That's why we're friends, Maralyn.
Why we're
so
friends,
many
right?
things. Yes.
Oldest daughter, right? So I remember in 2017, my younger brother had my first nephew. And I remember laughing that if my brother could have a kid, well, it shouldn't be that hard. So being in public service, I've worked at the largest school district in communications. I've worked at the legislature in communications. I've worked governor's office. Again, I've been behind the scenes on communications my entire professional career. And I've been around a lot of public servants, civil leaders, elected officials. And in 2017, 2018, I was younger, young 30s, but I remember thinking, I'm tired of listening to people just talk. I'm tired about, like, again, and New Mexico is 50th out of 50 for child welfare. That's just a stat, and it continues to get worse. The pandemic didn't do us any favors. So I worked for the school district when the Albuquerque Public School District, when we had the worst education outcomes in the country. And once again, we are there. So I have grown up in a place. I'm from New Mexico. I'm a native, and I'm kind of all over the place to say where I've landed today was not where I anticipated when I was 18 years old, right? Like that's, and so I know you have students who will listen to this. And so I'm starting to say that my path was a path of weird places to get here, and just things came in. But when my brother started to have a kid, I was single at the time. I was involved in a lot of civil servants, and I became a foster parent. And I just thought I was going to be a single foster parent and respite, emergency placements. I can order pizza or DoorDash with the best of them. And what happened is my passion, my education, my experience, and my need to find solutions and fix problems all came to a head. And I think that's why we're getting down to the why, right? Like, what is your why? My why was accidental. I don't think I'd ever really sat down and like deeply thought about it. But I became a foster parent, a single foster parent in 2018. And I realized firsthand just how broken the foster care system was. And I actually looked for a nonprofit or something, or I didn't think that this was a problem that needed fixing. I looked nationally, I looked locally, and I tried to find an organization to come in and improve things, and it didn't exist. So I started one, and 7.5 years later, here we are.
Yeah. 7.5 years later, which, again, in that time, you've done some really tremendous things for the children in New Mexico. And so I'm so honored to be your friend, but also to kind of be here during your leadership journey, because it's been so incredible. One of the things we talked about in last month's episode is overcoming the confidence gap. And so, doing what you did, having the confidence to not just go and seek solutions, but to then start something in order to address the problem, it takes a lot of confidence. And I know you and I you just mentioned that we're both Leos. We are both Leos, for those that may not know. So I feel like it's a little bit inherent in us to have that confidence gap. But can you tell us a little bit in your experience why you feel like having that understanding, that clarity around your why can help with the confidence gap and help kind of move the ball forward when it comes to achieving your goals?
I thought about this a lot. And so I didn't seek to do what I've done. I didn't and I laugh. Our governor knows my name because of how tenacious, persistent, you name the words. But I will say, especially on a podcast dedicated to women in leadership, women tend to be one issue voters and one issue leaders. And I happen to find my one issue. And my issue is improving child welfare outcomes, specifically as it relates to the foster care system. And so my confidence is more stubborn, right? My confidence is dedicated, persistent, tenacious. This is a problem and it's got to be fixed. And I think women uniquely have that. So it's not confidence, right? And I find people, and I think you do too, who go into public service to say, I'm going to run for office. Why? Because it sounds cool. That's not why you should run for office.
Yeah.
The more I've gone on my leader, the more I've done important work. And I just want to say we're ending the legislative session where every single one of my initiatives passed. And it's taken 6 years to do that. 6 years, 7 sessions. New Mexico created an Office of the Child Advocate. We reformed our confidentiality clause. And then we are revising and reforming our plan of safe care law for substance exposed newborns. This was nothing I knew about 10 years ago. And so I didn't seek out to run for office. I remember being a young child who wanted to make the world a better place. I think that drives me. And I found a place, if you've been on Pinterest and you can like do all the, the journeys and the vision boards and all those things. I think that's why you're listening to this podcast, is because you're trying to figure out what's next. And I've done a lot of searching. And it's what you're good at, what the world needs, how to do all those strengths. I found my perfect fit in reforming foster care. And now, and you and I speak to this, in the state of New Mexico, but also nationally. And so I just want to say that my confidence is not, there's confidence and there's cockiness. But at no point did I seek to change the world. And I knew someone asked me once a media person asked me a few years back if I went into this because I knew how broken it was and I wanted to be a martyr. And I literally told him to get lost because I could be running marathons in Hawaii or doing something different. So no, women get called to do this work because something else. So I will also say have patience, be intentional. But when you find that thing, and it could be running for office. I've been asked to run for office so many times now, but I would genuinely hurt the work I'm doing if I were to run for office. I'm much more effective as an advocate working on one issue, a very important issue, than I ever would be working in office at a multitude of issues. And I am grateful for all those who do, but I am now an expert in the field that supports those women in office.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say for now, because I think that's the other thing too, right? Just even hearing your story and your journey of how you got to where you are right now, there was many different iterations of leadership that you took on, right? Like you've helped candidates, you've helped women leaders run their campaigns, look for places for them to make impact. Then you yourself have this experience. You found a path forward in the advocacy lane, but that you still have much more to go in your journey, and it could manifest in any such way. And I think that's something that is important for people listening, is that it doesn't have to be a perfect straight line. A lot of it is kind of as opportunities come to you, as things, fall into place, and that you have a network of support around you. And to that point, I wanted to get a sense from you of how you've built these coalitions around you and how important it was to have a foundation of principles established, not just for the organization itself, but again, to have that as a leader, someone being able to tell from you that you have conviction, that you have principles, that you yourself as a leader guide you in the work that you do, and how important that is to bring people to your cause, build those networks and coalitions, and kind of some best tips to bring folks in.
I think I'm a natural networker. And so again, and I think that's just innately in my person. I am an extrovert, and I want to surround myself with like-minded people. I also want to say that I think it's been interesting. At the same time, I've really increased the momentum for the nonprofit that I run and the work I do. It's also been interesting to look at the COVID school closures and the education movement, because it's been an almost parallel journey to watch a lot of women come out, especially for school board or for other things like that. Again, it's an issue and an advocacy. And how do you create coalitions? You seek people interested in what you are discussing, right? And so I use social media a lot. So if you were to build a coalition, and I'm happy to talk about this, but again, I do it naturally. I seek people. In the legislature, I have built very strong support on both sides of the aisle in both chambers in New Mexico, because I seek people out who I think innately care about children, have a tie to foster care, or are solutions oriented, right? It's interesting because we have New Mexico actually has a majority female legislature. And so we have a lot of moms there. I also realize working with our legislature, moms are busy. They come to serve and then they want to go home to their kids and make dinner, right? Like, so seeking out women. And I learned this early on, and I think this was an important piece of my advocacy journal. For the first several years, 3 or 4 years, I just raised the flag. Our kids are not okay. Foster care is not okay. This is a broken system. I worked a lot with media, and it was such a low-hanging fruit. There were stories weekly, right? Awareness, interest, desire, action. I brought awareness. I've beat the drum. Our kids are not okay. We have to improve foster care. Currently, and this is national, foster care creates more trauma than it is protecting the kids we put in there. So really learning about that, but awareness, interest, you have to get interest, right? And so I think this is the same with what happened with the school board and the schools, right? No one was aware what was happening in the classrooms. And so all of a sudden you get moms aware and interested and desire, but now you have to seek action. And I think one of the things that has led to a lot of success for my organization and what we just saw in the legislature is that I'm not just bringing you problems, I'm bringing you solutions. Mm-hmm. And as an elected official, as a servant, it is easy to pass bills when you have data-driven, evidence-based information behind them. And so I have worked really hard these past few years to learn about my issue at every angle, good, bad, and ugly, and find solutions. So again, what you're hearing is conviction and passion. And I would say to anyone listening, conviction and passion will get you where you want to go. And do it correctly, evidence-based, right? The confidence gap in my world, and this is, I think, what you saw with the school board, the teachers, the parents who became school board members. Mm-hmm. There are some things that are too important not to have conviction and passion and see over the finish line. Education, child welfare, right? These are important issues. So when that gets deep in your blood, it's easy to push forward.
Yeah, for sure. I also think one of the things I heard kind of as a thread throughout your last statement was around building trust, right? And part of the trust is built through having facts on your side, having a very clear why on why you're doing something, a clear ask. And then to your point, having these relationships and building in people to this coalition of support. Not everyone listening is going to be an extrovert, but I think that's one of the reasons why getting very clear on your why and having that statement down, having your 30-second stump speech, your 30-second elevator pitch, which, by the way, for those listening, WPLN has trainings on those. You're welcome to find them for free on our platform or go to any of our training partners. But having that does give you a sense of confidence because you've said it so many times that you kind of have your line down, but you also then can bring others in because you can easily identify. You just mentioned a bunch of state legislators and others in the field that you knew were going to be at least somewhat open to what you were trying to bring them because they probably were clear on their whys of why they're in the legislature, why they are leading in their spaces. So you could find that synergy.
And I want to say, because you're hitting on it. So in terms of, the more I've become a leader, the more people watch me. I don't necessarily love it. I have to have stronger boundaries. If I'm going to call out the governor for not doing enough, if I'm going to go on the news, if I'm going to have an opinion, I have to be genuine, authentic, and honest in all aspects of my life. And I've had to shift, I'm just really aware of how I exist as a human in all elements now. And I think this is, in the year of TikTok and social media and all these things, like our elected leaders, to move to the next part of your leadership journey, you really have to be cognizant and aware of who you are in every single circumstance. My role in my advocacy journey has really shifted, and it is very important for me to be authentic, honest, genuine, intentional in everything I do.
Yeah. And I think you also brought up a good point on that there are a lot of tough times during this journey, right? There's a lot of times when you are going to have to go on the offensive or potentially even defensive when it comes to people that may not be supporting where you are or want to vote for you or whatever it may be. So how do you feel like having these set of principles or having this why very clearly articulated helps you stay grounded during kind of some of these times of challenge, whether it be people throwing negativity at you or, having to overcome boundaries and barriers that exist kind of in the space? I feel like the staying grounded piece is hard to do, especially with
so
attacks.
Well, and again, I this is something, and again, we're seeing it. So I'm so grateful for conversations in spaces like yours that we can talk about. It's hard to run for office. It's hard to be a leader. It's hard to be visible because the first thing you do when you see something is you want to tear it down, right? Here's what's wrong. If you don't agree with me saying foster care is broken, the first thing you're going to do is attack my character or my human, right? So, as someone who is 40, I would say that it is taking thicker skin, practice, knowing, having a very close circle of family, friends, and trust. Again, trust is a really big word. The greater you go forward, yes, if you stand up, the nail that sticks up is going to get hit down. So no, there are hard times, and I don't think you can avoid them, but you have to learn how to cope with them. So for someone who's young in their 20s and running to run for office versus someone who's 50, it's experience. And I go to therapy every single week. I'm pretty sure every person should, especially even just into today's political climate. So surround yourself with people who can build you up and support you, and have a very close network of trusted people, because this is how we move forward.
Yeah. Something you said resonated with me when you said that. Most things you say resonate with me, Maralyn, which is why we're friends and we do this work together. But it's the feeling that you kind of just have a fire in you to want to do this that kind of propels you forward, but it does get exhausting. And there are moments where you feel like, why am I still doing this?
Right.
But to your point, though, you have seen and stuck kind of to the course for 7 years and have seen bills, almost all of them signed by the governor, which we hope will happen very soon. But all of that is pretty incredible to have seen and to have watched. And I think for me, I am someone that I'm just like in a constant state of annoyance. Like, I'll be honest, every time I see anything going on, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. Like, someone's got to do it because you just can't take it. But I think what you talked about finding a gap, right? You didn't just jump in. You did your homework. You looked to see if there was other organizations out there, if there's other ways forward, but you didn't see it. You saw a gap and you felt like that was the place. But again, you had to know at least what you were looking for or looking to change. And then what are the different change agents?
100%.
So I think that's the other question, is looking for, how do you start to do that research to figure out what is the right path? Is it an elected office? Is it appointed? Is it helping a candidate? Is it being an advocate?
Google, Pinterest, watch, figure it out. And wherever it's interesting because I've never felt intentional about my next steps. Like, I'm not very goal oriented. I'm results driven. And so, that's interesting to even just say out loud, but figure it out and move forward, and then keep going and find people around you. I will also say, take a break when you need. And then for me in this cause, my entire family has come on board. Like, my mom's on the board. My partner has helped stand up. And so the thing is that, for instance, in my specific case of child welfare, once you see what you have seen, you can never look away. That's not going to be the case if your goal is to put a stop sign in your front yard, right? Like, again, everyone has advocacy. I think this is why women tend to be one issue voters and one issue elected leaders. How do most women get to city council or school board? Because those are issues they care about and they're issues they're familiar with. Find your why. It will likely be different than mine. But I want to say something because I think it's important to just, even if people are still listening to us on this podcast, during this session, this was my 7th session legislative session going up there. And I had a person I'm on a lot of elected task forces now. There's a lot of reform efforts to fix child welfare in my state. And I'm now an expert in the field. And so I'm on appointed. And a man on one of my task forces from last summer reached out to me and said, "Are you going to be the expert this morning in that hearing?" And I said, "Probably. TBD, quite frankly, my bills have gotten so high that the cabinet secretaries are now testifying on my bills." I said, "So if they won't, I will." And he said, "I want to give you feedback that you come across as aggressive in these hearings." Well, he's never texted me before, so congratulations, happy Monday. And it's obviously still stuck with me. And I just thought how absolutely outrageous that was. And he was sitting watching on Zoom. I'm in Santa Fe at the legislative session. So my first thought was, well, one of us is more effective than the other. And then I said, quite frankly, kids have died. Kids have died in foster care. And so I responded back. I probably shouldn't have, but I said, these are really important issues. And he said, well, sometimes I go home and I watch my video if I'm an expert and just listen to how my tone of voice came across. What he was saying is that I came across as aggressive, passionate, my tone of voice, urgent. I said, thank you for your feedback. And I stopped. The day after the session, he texted me, he said, good luck, Chica. Congrats, all your bills passed, et cetera. And I wanted to say, I guess being aggressive has benefits because his bills didn't pass. But it was very gendered. I don't know how to say it. Like the fact that he had the audacity to reach out to me and tell me I was aggressive. But I will tell you at the end of the day, my bills did pass. And sometimes in the noise of every single thing you're doing, if you have an important cause, if you know your why, then do what you need to do. And if you have bad days, you're going to put my contact in there, reach out. Larissa, I think WPLN is a great leadership place. Again, the conference is coming up, and it is a wonderful group of women who kind of put up with bull crap, right? And so when you know your why and you stand firm in what you are doing, don't give up.
Yep, I love that. And also, I think I would have just responded, you're much more diplomatic than I am. For those listening, at the end of the day, you're not the only one if you've also received a similar type of a text or something. And I think it's unfortunate, but to your point and to the point of this particular topic, if you feel really confident in your why and you feel like you have it backed up with data, you have it backed up with conviction, with support, all of these pieces, it makes it a lot easier. It's annoying to have to deal with those situations, but it makes it easier to kind of just have an attitude that you did, which was like, thank you so much, moving on, I'm going to continue on my path. And like, lo and behold, my stuff got passed because you didn't need to stop and like second guess yourself or like take his feedback and have it like take you down a path that was not going to be constructive for you or for the way that you handle your leadership in this space. And so again, I think that's why it's so important to get really clear on your why. And I'll just tell you, for one of my purposes, is that's my first question I ask anyone that's running for office is, why are you doing this? And the number of times that people can't answer the question, and we're talking about people that run for Congress, for governor, I mean, like big positions. It's a problem. You need to be able to articulate, and not just articulate it, but also feel it and have that passion. So Maralyn, I just say thank you so much for the work that you do on behalf of everyone in New Mexico, but also nationally, and not just for children in your state, but also for the women that you support behind the scenes, for the women that you help lift up and provide an example to. We just appreciate the work you do with us at WPLN. So, anyone that wants to get involved, we'd love for you to go visit the website, sign up for her newsletter, which is amazing. And she does it all herself, which is insane. But we just appreciate you being with us and joining today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, reach out. But I would say, and I just want to end, years ago, I would have been very upset when someone said I was aggressive. And some work is too important. And passion and conviction cannot be faked. Find your why and don't give up.
Thank you. Thank you, Maralyn, for taking the time today to share these valuable insights with our audience. We're so grateful for your support from WPLN, being a member of our Impact Council and one of our most valued partners in the state of New Mexico. WPLN is a national nonprofit working to educate, organize, and inspire center-right women to seek public office at every level across the U.S. and be effective leaders. To stay connected with us, you can visit our website and find us on social media on all platforms, linked in the description below. This year, we're excited for our 4th annual National Summit, June 5th through 7th in Orlando, Florida. If you're interested in more information on tickets or sponsoring, contact our team at hello@womenspublicleadership.net. Thank you for joining us this month for Tips from the Trail. Be sure to rate this show and turn on notifications to keep up with future episodes. Happy trails!